All right. Good evening, everybody. All right. I have said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Now, I don't post on my channel just to try to fucking cater to what people want. I say what rattles in my fucking head. I mean, you either like it or you don't. If you like it, awesome. Now, if you don't, there's plenty of other channels you can go, to see stuff that you like. Um, Now, my take on this video is that there's a lot of channels that maybe bigger than they may end up, they're bigger than they should be, and again they're posting stuff. Some of them might be posting stuff that preys on you know certain preys on certain demographics. Now, I'm not saying every channel out there is like that, but a lot of the black pill channels, and their female equivalents, predator catcher channels, the morbid, gloomy channels that I covered in a previous video. I have reservations that are they really doing it just to because they know they're going to get a reaction. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get a reaction. I'm not worried about it. I'm just not worried about it. I say what rattles in my head, and that's that. Um, again, like I said, there's some channels that just, they like to entertain, and that's fine. Obviously, all the skit channels, that I used to watch. I got bored with them because they were just fucking recycling the same material, but switching up the rules and shit. Like, Diamond, that was the first one. Life Lesson with Lewis, Tomorrow Teaching. All those like skit channels where they portray scenarios. Um, they're entertaining. You know, and because they're entertaining and they're paid actors, you know, they get a pass. Because they're putting effort into presenting scenarios. Um, Other entertaining channels, Whistle and Diesel. He likes to entertain, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. People like to watch. A lot of people like to watch him destroy vehicles. A lot of people like to watch the skit channels just to see, the happy ending and some of the quotes that some of them use. You know, and each channel, it's funny, Diamond, has so you see, that's part of it. Illumably, that was the one I forgot to mention, and a lot of those skits, you know, the actresses like will say, "I'm going to go freshen up." That is a common line in those two channels. It's just like it's almost like their trademark. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't believe all the channels have like a trademark line, and with a lot of them, the actors, jump from channel to channel. Yeah, you'll see an actor on one, and then next thing you know, sometime later, he or she is on some other channel. So it's like, yeah, they bounce around. But those serious channels, they get a pass. But a lot of the other types of channels I want to talk about, like I said, the manosphere channels and the female versions of those, um, it, they're preying off of. It's almost like feeling they're preying off of people's negative views on shit. Um, the Daily Wire guys. Um, by the way, Daily Wire is a fucking ripoff. I shouldn't have had to fucking pay $100 just to watch one movie. Um, Run, Hide, Fight. Good flick, by the way. Um, anyhow, um, and you have all, the other channels, who are on the left, and again, they're doing this. They're doing this just to almost prey on, you know, people's thinking. Now, obviously, there are some channels that are very informative on what they do. Um, and they put out, useful, they put out the facts, and, that I'm okay with. But, if you're doing stuff, just to, prey on, people's, views on shit, that, that just doesn't sit right. I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to fucking, fall down rabbit holes. I'm not going to post every, up and down I have. I'm not going to fucking, side with one posting, leftist shit or right wing shit. I'm just going to put my opinion on stuff because we're all entitled to an opinion. It's a sense of entitlement to an opinion. And there's certain sides I agree with on one thing, and then there's certain sides I agree with the other side. I just say what rattles in my head. Now, obviously, not all of my videos are me just sitting in my room ranting. A couple of them have been me sitting in the park so I can get away from the computer. And of course, you have my playlist with my vehicles. I deleted one of those because I no longer have that vehicle. It's the 05 Colorado. I no longer have that one. I still, knock on wood, have the Hyundai Santa Cruz and the Geo Tracker. But due to my current situation, I may just have to cut a loss, like I addressed in my previous video. Which was kind of influenced by watching Men Need to Be Heard video on the same topic. How to survive a layoff. I know he'll say as a man, but that's fine. That's his vibe. And again, while I think he's another credible one based on some of the issues men do face, especially in today's dating world. And I think he's second. I think he's second credible one compared to Eli Nix and the female version of that guy's channel, which I think the female version and Eli Nix should just do a podcast. And like I said in a previous video, those who are credible, and I'll tell you, and again I'll tell you why. One, they're both married. So you would think that they would have much more of an expert on being in a relationship, finding a relationship than some single disgruntled guy. Modern King is another one. But again, my reservation, even though they're credible, my reservations, is, they're, some of them, those three are exempt from that rule, because again, they show real life facts on what happens, and you get my point. I know. Brain thought. You'll see this in a lot of my videos, so if you don't like it, don't watch it. I don't give a fuck. But anyhow, like the doom and gloom, the the influencer types, they're just trying to, get clout or views, and I just think that could lead you down a very dark path. I know people are going to call me an influencer. No, I'm not an influencer. Like, what do I have? Fucking 10 subscribers, Because, what I'm saying? But, again, like I said in a previous video, I'm probably going to, restructure my channel, based on what's getting views and reactions. If these aren't getting, views and reactions, then I might just stop doing this. And again, before I got put in my current position of, being unemployed, I'd post like what? One, maybe 3 videos a week. If that. Because I was busy working. So, my goal with this channel, is to not try to sit there and just have the hope of becoming a YouTuber. Though it would be nice. I ain't gonna argue if it pans out. I mean, who the fuck would? You'd be an idiot not to argue with that. But obviously, that's not the point of this channel. I much like everybody else. It's gonna rattle. They just rattle what they think is right, and the ones that are doing it, almost to like prey on people's emotions and thoughts. They think it's right. I can't tell them any different, especially since they're probably making money on it, and I'm not. So I can just put my own opinion out there on what I think. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. You tell me. Let me know what you think in the comments if you actually see this video. If you don't like how I do my videos, then don't fucking watch them. I sip a cup of coffee. So fucking what? And also you see my like car dealerships videos. I know, kind of figured I'd give that a shot, but it doesn't work out like it does for Untamed Motors or Thomas Eben. Some of those guys, I don't know how the fuck they do it, but without getting harassed by salesmen doing Usain Bolt. Yeah, I think that should be an Olympic sport. Car salesman trying to get a sale. Yeah, that would actually fucking go over. That would actually be awesome. I would love to see that. Fucking, a person pulls into a car lot and then the salesman just fucking, poof, 100-yard dash. In fact, I'll probably be doing another one of those tomorrow, and it's probably going to end up looking different than the other two. Because I don't want to fucking sit there and talk to a fucking salesman who probably doesn't want to talk to somebody who ain't going to buy. Anyhow, that's just my 2 cents. I'm kind of bored. So, over and out. I'll talk to you.